Hey friends! In today's episode, we'll be talking about animal loss in livestock herds, how to prepare for it, how much death loss is likely to happen, and how to get your expectations in line with the realities of raising animals and the losses that come along with it. It's important to understand that success isn't necessarily keeping them all alive, because that's not possible. But you can have realistic expectations that help you define success in a better, more meaningful way. Hey friends, welcome to the Get Goat-Wise podcast. Are you longing to raise goats and other animals for food but don't know where to start? Do you want to be more self-sufficient and less dependent on the grocery store? Do you wish you had a mentor to walk you through raising livestock? Hi, I'm Millie, animal scientist, cattle girl turned goat rancher, co-owner of Dry Creek Livestock, and simple living enthusiast. For 15 years, I've been on a mission to raise all of our own meat, eggs, and dairy. Here, we'll talk about raising goats and other homestead livestock, how to create sustainable animal management systems that actually work, and a bit of off-grid life with kids and livestock. If you're ready to take control of your food supply, raise livestock with confidence, and provide your family with the most nourishing meat, eggs, and dairy available, you're in the right place. Kick off your muck boots, pour a cup of coffee, and let's talk livestock. Hey there! Do you want to hang out with like-minded folks who are also interested in raising their own livestock and seeking self-sufficiency? Inside the free Raising Goats and Homestead Livestock community, you'll get tips on raising goats and other livestock and ideas to increase your self-sufficiency. Join now at bit.ly/getgoatwisecommunity. You can also become an insider and get weekly emails from me with the latest podcast episode, tips on raising goats and other livestock, real-life information about self-sufficiency and living off-grid, and early bird access to special offers. Sign up at bit.ly/getgoatwiseinsider. I hope everyone had a delightful Thanksgiving. Ours was quiet and cozy, just the way we like it. Lots of good food, maybe too much. We had all of our favorite things to eat, and we had some time to rest. We didn't do any work on the building. It's been very cold, below zero nearly every night, and the snow isn't melting off very fast. We'll be working on the south side of the roof this week, and if we're ready to put the metal roofing on, we'll do some things to help the snow melt off the north side, and hopefully get the whole thing roofed before next weekend. Once the roof is on, we need to frame in some windows and doors, and then get the walls finished up. The animals are doing really well. They're super fluffy with all their winter coats and are handling the cold just fine. It's amazing how well they adapt to our harsh winters. The first goats we brought from Colville many years ago grew a much thicker cashmere undercoat during the winter than their herd mates that were only 70 miles away in a slightly milder climate. That's impressive adaptation. Speaking of cashmere, we're thinking of having some winter pelts tanned when it's time to process these meat kids. If that's something you'd be interested in learning about, or if you'd like us to make pelts available for purchase, let me know. We did have a sad loss this week. Eddie the bottle calf went on to greener and hopefully warmer pastures. We did everything we could do for him, but he had too many things working against him, too many problems, and he just couldn't pull through. Ray is taking the loss kind of hard. He's been the primary caretaker and bottle feeder, and he worried that he didn't do enough to take care of him. But that's not the case. There isn't anything more that could have been done. His time here definitely had a purpose, and I came up with some new ideas to try when we have another calf like him. When we took him in, we knew his chances were slim, but we gave him the best care to give him a fighting chance. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. So how do we deal with loss? Well, we grieve and feel sad about it, and then we evaluate what we could have done differently, and we make notes about what we learned. Then we get back up and carry on. Bottle babies are challenging no matter the species, so you need to have realistic expectations. Check out episode 10 for more tips on raising bottle kids. A quick note on this. Raising bottle babies can be a way to grow a herd without a huge financial investment in breeding stock. You will have huge investments of time and emotional ups and downs instead. It can still be worth it though. We made big improvements in our show goat herd by raising bottle babies with outstanding genetics and growing them up into breeding does. We've done the same with bottle calves. In both cases, we made a trading arrangement where we did the work, provided the milk, and at the end of the season, we split the bottle kids or calves that survived. So we keep half of them and give half back to the breeders. Sometimes we buy back or make another trade to keep all the calves. When you own animals, you are going to have death loss. It's part of what you sign up for when you become the owner of livestock. I saw a post on social media this morning where some folks quite new to raising cattle had lost a calf. Their herd got spooked, went through the electric fence, and the new little calf got stuck in a muddy ditch and died. Very sad for sure, but these things happen. I'm not sure if it's the first calf they've ever lost, but now there's a GoFundMe to help them build safer fence. I'm curious how they'll handle their second death and all the others after that. So today I want to talk about realistic loss numbers you can expect with your livestock so that you're aware for the potential loss. You don't have to walk around in fear that something's going to die. You just need to know that part of life is death. And if it hasn't happened yet, at some point it will. Awareness in this case is preparedness. For most species, expect a 2% death loss each year for your mature breeding stock. This is variable. If you have a younger herd, it will likely be lower. If you have an ideal weather year, it'll be less. If your animals are a perfect fit for your environment, it will be less. If you have extreme weather, it can be a lot higher. If you have a predator event, it will be more. If you have animals that don't match your climate, it can be more. During kidding, you can expect about 15% non-predator death loss. These losses are due to things like exposure, malpresentation, poor mothering, lack of colostrum, the birth sac over their head, and multiple births. Predator death loss is extremely variable and can be much higher, but it can also be zero. And that's something you have a little more control over with livestock guardian dogs and fencing. With cattle, average calf loss is 6.5%. How many animals do you have? I think one of the hardest things in dealing with death loss is when you first get started and you only have a small herd. Every loss has a much larger impact in small herds. Fortunately, you'll have some years where you won't have any loss. That's a time to celebrate and be grateful, but also realize that it's not going to be that way every year. Are you raising specialty livestock? Often, death loss is much higher in specialty breeds and types. In our years of raising show goats, our death loss at kidding was anywhere from 20 to 50%. On the lower end, that wasn't bad, but the higher end was devastating. There are so many factors that play into that number, especially since kidding is in the winter months, December to February, and that makes everything harder. But we really had to adjust our expectations and get real about the number of live kids we could expect to have at the end of the season to sell, and that was a hard pill to swallow coming from a commercial livestock background. Here are some tips on getting your expectations in line with actual numbers so that you aren't disappointed every year. Just plan on 2% death loss in your breeding herd. If you have a small herd and that number is less than 1, still write down 1 for expected death loss. If it doesn't happen, great. But if it does, you'll be prepared. During kidding, expect that you will lose 15%. Let's say you have 20 does. Estimate your kid crop conservatively at 125%. That gives you 25 kids born. Multiply by 15%, and that's 3.75. Round it up to 4 to get death loss in your kids. That gives you an expectation of 21 kids to wean for your own use or to sell. This is a good way to make sure you don't overestimate the number of kids you'll have available to sell, especially when working on your budget. Any kids above 21 are a bonus. In our case this year, we'll have about 100 does exposed to breeding. Because we have a smaller percentage of first-time does, and I have a pretty good idea of how they've been producing, I'll estimate 140% kid crop, which is 140 kids. 15% death loss is 21. This year we were around 7 or 8%, but I'm not going to count on that for next year, so I'll expect 140 minus 21, which will be 119 kids. Because we have good records and know what to expect, I can also calculate a goal number based on past performance. That would be 145% kid crop born and 8% death loss, which gives us 133 weaned kids. I won't budget or make plans based on that number, but it gives us a target to aim for. I hope this helps you understand death loss in livestock, that it's just part of what you sign up for, and knowing the numbers and what to expect will help you be better prepared when losses occur. Hey there, thanks for listening today. I'm so glad you're here. If this episode helped you or encouraged you in some way, share the link with your homesteading friends. And if you really want to help me out, click on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and a review. You can connect with me on Instagram or email linked in the show notes, and meet me back here soon for more Get Goat Wise.